Hello.
Bill, is this Bill?
It is.
Hey, brother, I'm ready to have you. You're live on the air. We're talking about COVID-19, and
we are.
Well, you called me today and told me there's a new strain, a mutated strain. Talk to us about COVID-19. What is going on here?
B117 variant is the new horrendous strain of the vaccine, of the virus, that is overwhelming the scientists at the moment. And it's in California, and it's expected to expand into other areas. It is 50% more infective, spreading, and considerably more deadly, and 6 times greater rapid rate of reproduction than any of its predecessors. And the people who are infected with this strain are more likely to enter the intensive care unit and 11 more likely to die. So this is red alert, and it's expected to become the dominant strain in California within a month. And it cannot be easily detected by our current methods of detecting it, because you'd really have to do a whole genome sequence on everybody's sample to find it. So it is very difficult. And it defies, here's the poison pill, it defies, no vaccine offers any protection from it. None of the antibodies produced by vaccines stand in the way of it, and no prior coronavirus infections are even helpful at all. Both antibodies from prior infections and vaccines are useless. So it's just going to race through the human population unimpeded. And of course, this is, as one of the researchers said, the devil is already here. And there's a second strain that's likely to combine with it. So these are all terrible scenarios. Now, I must say that in the past, in England in particular, they did some scaremongering and told people these algorithms were going to predict more deaths and so on. And those algorithms were false, and it certainly was fear-mongering. This is not based on algorithms. This is based on infectivity in a lab dish and actual how it spread through intensive care units and communities. And this is where the data comes from. So a landmark report in the Los Angeles Times said this is going to be more deadly than imagined. And it's scary to even tell people this, and sometimes you don't know whether you want to scare them this much. The efforts they concede that the physical distancing, the vaccination, face masks, hand sanitization, isolation and quarantine will only slow this down. Inevitably, the same number of people succumb. The fatality rate's the same. So, of course, what do? And of course, we interviewed today researchers these are researchers that are in Reno, Nevada, and they're self-funded, obviously doing more than our Centers for Disease Control. And what they tell us is that we use nature's universal vaccine, and that is an amino acid called lysine. Now, lysine has been typically used in health food stores. It's like $5 a bottle, and it's put in foodstuffs, so they make thousands of tons of this here for livestock feed. And so lysine is one of the amino acids that we get in our foods. If you would like a lot of lysine, eat a lot of cheese because it has a lot. And it is balanced out by arginine. Arginine is in nuts and chocolates, for instance, very strong. So the arginine-lysine balance sets off viruses. They did not know. They only thought it set off herpes viruses. Now they're finding that it sets off coronaviruses. And so if we eat a lot of cheese, we're going to reduce the ability of these viruses to make copies of themselves. And if we take and eat a lot of chocolates and nuts, we're going to increase the risk because they use arginine to make copies of themselves. And so they're going to advise people not only to take lysine, but if they get infected, to limit the amount of certain kinds of foods, particularly chocolates and nuts, which are very arginine rich, and to eat foods that are lysine rich, such as cheese. Every type of cheese has a dominant lysine over arginine ratio. And so the good news today is that the vaccines, as we've been trying to tell everybody, you can't make a vaccine against every strain. They're frightening us. Do we do this on the flu? Do we make a vaccine? No, we guess on the 3 strains that are going to be popular. We put them in the vaccine. Sometimes they guess totally wrong. And we're just over frightening people with all of this in the sense they want to have a vaccine for each strain. And they want to vaccinate more than one time a year. I mean, we might as well just live for vaccines. That's our purpose in life, is to get vaccinated. So this the absurdity of all this and the vaccine companies profiteering in this way is and using fear to do it. And when we have an answer, and our leading researcher who is operating from Reno, Nevada, telling us that we need to use lysine as our natural, universal vaccine in a sense. And the lysine, if you get sick, now what they did is they went to the Dominican Republic where they could study this. And in one district, in the District of Columbia, the clinicians, the doctors were getting sick. So they first took the lysine, and all of their illnesses every month stopped among the clinicians themselves. They took it first to make sure. It has 50 years of safe use, lysine, for knocking out cold sores that are caused by herpes and other forms of herpes infection. So it's safe to use. And it also helps clean up your arteries while you're doing this. But the point is that these researchers are now suggesting that we use an off-the-shelf $5 remedy. And they're not saying don't get vaccinated, but they're telling you that vaccines are going to be useless, that this is going to sweep through, and we need today to begin relying on natural remedies and stop thinking that we have to keep relying on the pharmaceutical model, which is patentable molecules that make them billions of dollars. If we keep doing that, we're going to pay for it, and this is going to race through the human population around the earth and the globe, and it's going to be a what they're calling a nightmare scenario. So that's what they've cooked up. We can tell you tonight that if this story gets out far and wide as it should, there won't be a bottle of lysine left on any store shelves. You won't find this at Costco. You're going to have to go to a vitamin shop. If you're going to order it online, do so. And you're going to want to make sure that your family has a couple of bottles of lysine around. They cost right. So it's not something expensive, and it's the poor man's way to fix this. It's the only way. They've reached a dead end with their vaccines. They've reached a dead end with all the rest of their remedies. It won't work, and they've taken us to the bitter end, to the point where they're putting us all at risk for relying on their vaccines. And of course, they've got 214 more vaccines in the cooker, not just for this disease, but many other transmissible infectious diseases. It's absurdity. It's insane. We certainly can't vaccinate, especially children, that often. And they've taken us to a dead end in the world. We just push back on the vaccine idea and rely on something that's been successful in 50 years, and that's lysine. It was just known since 1974 that it beats herpes simplex, which are cold sores. There are other forms. Chickenpox is a herpes family virus. Shingles, a herpes family virus. Again, lysine beats all of those. And now we know that it's also lysine. It counters arginine. Arginine is used by the viruses to make copies of themselves. It doesn't matter whether you're infected. If they don't make copies, they're not going to create terrible symptoms, and they're not going to kill you, and they'll just be snuffed out over time. So the answer tonight is to remember that we eat glycine every day in our foods. It's a common amino acid. You just want it to be dominant over arginine. If you're feeling like you have any of the symptoms of shortness of breath, and your have a fever, vomiting, diarrhea, chronic cough, loss of sense of smell. All those are common signs of coronavirus infections, particularly this one, COVID-19. And you want to start using lysine if you're frightened by this and you're concerned. If you have a vulnerable person in your family, certainly grandparents and so on, they might want to take a 500 milligram lysine capsule every day, and more when you're ill, up to a couple thousand milligrams a day or more. And they've now used this on thousands of patients in the Dominican Republic. They've also used it in Pakistan. It's almost works without fail, and it's now in one of the European countries. They're expanding, and one of the countries officially, their medical society is going to conduct a nationwide study. So the vaccine agenda has come to a dead end, as it was going to anyway. We're going to, if we ignore what I'm saying tonight, we're going to all end up threatened with a life or death infection. And the best way to handle this is to use lysine, nature's way of controlling. And understand, our immune system is all powerful. Our humanity, all of humanity would have been erased from the earth a long time ago in the Black Plague and so on. So our immune system is always dominant, but now we know how to control it. And the best way to do it now is that the study is that lysine is as powerful with coronaviruses as it is with herpes viruses, and we urgently need to have in our home medicine cabinet. This is not worth bringing to the ICU over. They're not going to offer you lysine. And make sure you have some at home. And within hours, literally, people have gotten well, even out of the ICU, within hours using the lysine. So let me spell it for you, Lysine. It's a common amino acid. You eat it every day. You need to break away from arginine-rich foods for a while. You need to make sure that you maybe get an arginine supplement. Eat some cheese. That's very strong lysine to arginine ratio. And do it the natural way, and make sure your family's protected. And for sure, make sure you get a $5 bottle of lysine before it all disappears from the store shelves.